G'day, welcome to the AviSyst tutorial on using digital daily flight records, DFRs. So we're in the home page. We're going to choose the aircraft we want to fly from the list up here. We're going to be choosing BHF today. Click on the link and it will open up the DFR. First time you open up a DFR on a phone or a tablet, you want to make sure you make it available offline. So top right hand side, there's these three dots. You need to click on them and it will give you a drop down list. You'll find the option that says available offline and you want to select that one, and it will then make it available for the DFR to work if you land out of service or something like that. When you get back into service, the DFR will automatically sync with the cloud and you'll be back online. So you only need to do that the first time you open it on a phone or tablet. Once you've done it for that aircraft once, you won't need to do it again. So there are a few key things you need to know about these DFRs. First is this status bar at the top of the screen. This will tell you what's required still before you can close the DFR. If anything's missing or you've forgotten to add it, it will tell you up here. That line will go completely green when everything has been entered incorrectly. Another key thing is the drop-down lists. These make your life much easier, much quicker to fill out. These down arrows here will give you a drop-down list where you can choose an entry that's already been entered. If the item you want isn't in that list, you can simply type it in and it will add it to that list and across all the aircraft from that point forwards. The only change to this is the customer, which is down here. You can't add in a new customer by typing it into this box. You have to type in, select other, and then down on row 26, you can choose the other customer and you need to type in the name of the other customer here. The reason for this is we don't want two customers to be entered that have got the same name but spelt slightly differently. It will cause issues in the database and they'll turn up as two different customers, which make things like invoicing and customer tracking tricky. Other than that, the rest of the drop-down lists, you can choose locations in this one. And as I said, if it's not in the list, you can just go to the keyboard and type in the name that you want and it will add it into the list for future use. So we're going to go through the DFR now, enter it in as if we're doing a flight. I'll go through the first stage pretty quickly to give you an idea, and the second stage I'll go for a little bit slower. So first thing you notice is we've got this big red column showing us that we haven't entered the pilot's initials yet in the top left cell. So up here is where you put your pilot's initials in, click on the box, choose from the drop down list, and that red column will go away. And the status bar will also update to say the customer is missing in stage one. So we'll go down to the customer drop-down list, click on it, and we'll select one from the list. We'll just choose a random one for today, and then it will update. It will now tell us that the Hobbs time is missing in stage one. This is because we haven't landed yet. There's no Hobbs time to put in. And the way this DFR works is when you put the Hobbs time in, it triggers it to look through the rest of the stage to make sure nothing's missing. It will also copy certain items from that stage across to the next one to make it easier for you. So things like the task and the customer pilot gets copied across. And if you're doing the same job each stage, really there's very little to fill out each time. It's very quick to do each stage. So we're going to get some fuel. We've got 125 litres in, and that's left over from the last time this aircraft flew. The last fuel stop was 125 litres, and let's put that into today's DFR. We're going to get some fuel, so we're just going to put in a couple of 100 litres, and we're going to choose a company. So we're going to search, and if it's somebody that's in there already, then we can select them. If not, we can add them in. So we'll just choose these guys, and now we've got a bit more fuel, so we will update this one. Okay, next we're going to go flying. So since making this video, there's been a little bit of an update, and we now have checkboxes for the engine start and engine stop time. You simply click on that box and it will enter in the time as it is right now for you. You can enter in the time without using these checkboxes. If you're out of service, you can't use these checkboxes. Once you tick it, nothing will happen. They'll only work when you're in service. So if you are out of service, click on it, click clear, and then you can type in your time as normal and it will automatically reformat it, that I'll talk about in a second. Now the next checkboxes will appear in the next stage once you've entered in the Hobbs time, and that will make them if you're in service, and it will create them in the next stage for you, and you'll see them appear in a second. There you go. Then you can carry on just ticking them as you go across. All right, back to the original video now, which will go into the automatic formatting of these start times. So we're going to put in the start time, and we're just going to put in that we started at 10:03. It's 24-hour clock, and you don't actually need to put the colon in between the hours and the minutes. It will reformat that afterwards for you. So you can just type in the 4 digits and it will reformat it to the correct format later on. Task, we're just going to go ferry. So you can see ferries at the top of the list because it was used yesterday or the day before. So it will be at the top of the list. And we're going to be going to, we'll just go to somewhere that's in the list already. So we'll just pick Albury. So all you need to do, go flying, and then when you land, open up your DFR, put how many landings. We just did 1. We're going to say we stopped at 10:45, and we ended up with 260 litres in. And the Hobbs time, we'll make this one, click tick. Now it's going to go through and check that everything's there. So at the top, it will tell us if we're missing anything. It's gone green. It says close DFR, so the DFR is complete. If this was the only flight we were going to do for today, we could close it now and all our paperwork be done. Flight and duties updated, invoicing details sent to the database. But we're going to do a little bit more. So the next stage, I'm going to add a few extra things in just to show you a bit more of what you can do with this DFR. So we're not going to get any fuel. So we're going to start at the top, stage 2. We're not going to get any fuel, so we don't need to put anything in those top 2 boxes, or the fuel start, although we will. I'll talk about that a bit later. So we'll put 260 litres in, which is what we finish with. Okay, let's say we're going to start up. We didn't shut down for long, so 11:55. And instead of a ferry, this time we are going to do an aerial survey. And we're going to go to a new place. We're going to go to Jim's farm. So we can start typing in. It's not in there already, so we'll just enter it in ourselves. And then we're going to go flying. So again, when you land, you start filling in from where you left off. So landings, we did 5 landings. We stopped off a few times on the way, and we ended up landing, we'll just pick it about 1:15-ish, and we ended up with 110 litres, and we'll just put in a Hobbs landing time. So then it will check through it, check we're all done. So if everything's happy, we'll get a green thing at the top, which we have, and we're ready to move on. If we had missed something out, say we had forgotten to put in the fuel stop, if we get rid of that, then the DFR, the status bar at the top, will tell us that the final stop fuel is missing. So we need to enter that back in. Similarly, if we had forgotten to put in the number of landings, the DFR, the status bar at the top, they'll tell us the number of landings missing in stage 2. So we'll put that back in. We've got a few extra things that we can have a look at down the bottom here. So customer agent is something that we can add in if it's relevant. So this can be things like the person that booked the job or is responsible for talking to if you've got any questions about it. So it's a drop-down list with the list in there of everyone that's in the system, or you can add someone in, as with the other stuff. Aircrew can be your FLIR camera operator, incendiary machine operator, your winch crewman. You can put them in there. Roll equipment, you can choose AI machine, FLIR camera, other, and that will put a flag up on the DFR to let the accounts people know that there's some roll equipment that might need to be charged for. Number of caps, if you put roll equipment, aerial incendiary machine, then you'll need to put the number of caps that was done. The status bar at the top will tell you that the caps is missing if you've put in roll equipment. Next one down is the area of op and the file or task number. So this is used for agency work. You can put in your task numbers. And in fact, there's a few things that if you were to put into the task, something like bucketing, it will actually require you to put in a task number, and it will also require you to put in lifts. So I skipped over lifts here. If you do things like lifting or bucketing, it will ask for your number of lifts, so that's logged into the system, and you can track how many lifts a hook has had and how many hours a hook's been used. Task number, there we go, is missing, so you need to put in a task number here. Again, pre-populated list, or you can type in a new task number if it's the first time for that day. Then I go green, telling us that everything's filled in. So I'll just quickly clear these ones because that's not what we're doing on this flight. We'll change that back to aerial survey. Now the DFR will check itself again, and hopefully it should all be correct as it was. Moving down a little bit further, we've got oil add. If you've added oil, good way to keep track of how much oil the engine's using. You don't need to use it, but it can be useful. Notes in here for adding notes onto the printout, the DFR printout, that gets emailed to you in the accounts, and you can add in things there if you need to let them know. Other custom we've spoken about already. Pilot, so we can change this. So say for stage 3 coming up, we can actually change the pilot, and then when you close the DFR, the different pilots' flight and duties will be worked out for whichever stage that pilot in particular did. We've got idles for BA squirrels. If you put that in there, it will work out your NPs and NGs and NFs automatically, and when you get the email when you close the DFR, it will tell you what that is, and you can write that into the maintenance release. Same for the final NGs and final NFs for B3 squirrels. You can just put that in when you know it's the last one, and it will chuck that into the maintenance tracking part of the system. Passenger names down the bottom here, you can type them in and kind of use it as a passenger manifest. As this is cloud-based system, anyone that has access to this can therefore see who is on the aircraft at each different stage if needed to. So that can be quite useful to use, and those passenger names will get copied across, much like the pilot's names and tasks and customer. They'll get copied across if you're flying with the same people for each stage. You don't have to write them in every single time. Very bottom left-hand corner, you'll see trend check link. So this is a way you can enter in the trend check for the aircraft, depending on how often your company requires it. You click down there, it will have selected trend check in the form, click next, and then it will have already entered in your aircraft rego, the date, the stage that you're putting it in on, and you can choose which type of trend check it is depending on the aircraft you're flying. So, and then you just follow it, the instructions, and enter it. We won't do that now. So we'll go back to the DFR, and we'll go to our next stage as if we were going to carry on flying. So let's say we are going to get fuel here. I've got 110 litres left, so we'll get a couple of 100 litres of fuel here, which will mean, and we got this from Jim, which is new. So we got it from Jim's drums, and again that will be added into the next list from then on. So fuel start will be 310 litres. We started up at a bit later, had a bit of a break on the ground, 14:57, and we're not going to do aerial survey for this one. We're actually going to do, we just did a ferry. I think we ferried back. Location, so as you can see here, Jim's farm wasn't in the list originally, but it now is at the top of the list there, along with Albury, where we've been already today. And we can go, so we'll go to Wagga, so Wagga's already in there. We'll tick Wagga. Go flying. Once you land, landings, one landing, we landed, we'll just say about 3:30, and we ended up with about 250 litres. And our hops time, try and get this about right so it's happy with us. So let it check, which should only take a few seconds, and it'll tell us if anything's missing. So green, we're all good, we're all finished for the day, or we're finished for that stage and we can finish for the day or carry on. Say we did change the customer for that last stage, we can go down to the customer drop down list here, and we can choose somebody else. So if they're not in the list, as we spoke about earlier, we can go other, drop down to the other column here, and we can enter in that it was someone new. So we'll call him, it was Jim. Once we've done all that, as I said, we're pretty ready to go. Ready to close it if we're finished for the day. A couple of little tips that can make your life a lot easier. So between stage 1 and 2, you can see that we landed 260 litres and we took off 260 litres. So as we didn't pick up any fuel, we don't actually need to put a fuel stop or a fuel start in. If we get rid of those two and let the DFR check itself, you'll notice that it's still going to be quite happy with it. It will calculate the fuel used for those stages if they get separated over different customers. So just one less thing you have to do. And it's the same with your engine start and stop time. So if we just, we didn't shut down, we just picked up Jim and went flying, we don't actually need to put the engine stop time down or the engine start time down because we didn't do it, we didn't shut down. And you'll see also these engine start column here, it will automatically put a 1 in if you have a engine start time, and it won't put anything in there if you don't have an engine start time. So this knows that we just did we didn't shut down, and it was removed that start. So for things like maintenance flying, where you might end up doing multiple starts for only one flight, instead of writing down every single start on this, you can just clear that 1 and put multiple starts down there. So that's the DFR that you fill in day to day, and really most days that's all you need to do. You don't need to do anything else. If it says green at the top, you're good to go. If there's a red bar at the top, it will tell you what you've done wrong and you can fix it before you close it off. A couple of other things with this DFR. Down the bottom here we've got a few different tabs, so we'll go through them now. You've got the MR summary, which will tell us what's coming up on the maintenance release. So the idea is that when you get a new maintenance release for the aircraft, you copy it into this sheet and then it will track it for you, tell you if things are coming up. So down here you can see the red line there. We've got the main rotor retorque due in 1.5 hours. But as an example, you can put things in here. Let's just say there's a thingy, and we'll say it was due about half an hour ago. So we accidentally flew over over the maintenance. Choose the type here. You can choose hours, dates, or anything else. So we'll choose hours, and you'll see that it tells us that we've half an hour over. If we go back to the DFR sheet down the bottom here, you'll see that it actually now tells us at the top on the status bar there's overdue maintenance. Please select completed on the summary tab. Go back to the summary tag, and when you have done the maintenance, so if you've done the 50 hourly or something, you can click on the drop down box here, click completed. It will remove that red line to show you that it's been done. We'll go back to the DFR and it will now tell you it's green, everything is good to go. So feel free to use this to enter in all the details on the maintenance release. And when you close the DFI, it will send you an email. It'll actually tell you the next thing that's coming up. So it makes it much harder to accidentally overfly any maintenance. PDF printout, this is what your DFR looks like when it gets emailed to you. There's nothing you can change in here. It can be handy to look at sometimes and see certain things, but very, very rarely do you need to go in here. You can see it does split up your customers. So we've got the 2 customers there, and it shows you the engine hours and MR hours and charge fuel to split between them. Works all that out automatically for you, and it will put that into the database for the accounts people to do all the invoicing for. The last sheet is the snags and notes. You can see here there's been a few in here. Good way just to communicate with any pilots that are going to be flying it, what snags are left on it. You can also email this to the engineers so they can see what's coming up when it's going to go into maintenance next. So that's a quick demonstration of what the DFR is and how to fill it out. A little bit fiddly to fill out the first few times, I accept that, but once you get used to it, it really is very quick, very easy, and it saves you a lot of time, especially at the end of the day. You push one button, submit it, that's all your paperwork done for the day. There's nothing else to do. It does all the calculations for you. So once everything is okay to close, we're going to click on the link top left hand side up here, close DFR, and we're going to follow the link. I'll open up a form that will have the rego date already in there, and FOR, as I said earlier. We'll tick that just so I can show you what it looks like, and then we'll click submit. That's it. That's all you need to do. If you just wait about 30 seconds or so, you'll then get an email. So here's the DFR that comes through. This is what it looks like. So it will give you a summary here. It will show you your total MR time, starts, engine time, all that sort of stuff. And it will give you the current MR time. So here is what you write down at the MR. Don't have to do any calculations. Always want to follow this time because it will be 100% accurate as long as your DFR entry was accurate. Also gives you some information on maintenance coming up. So here it'll tell you what the next items are due, and you can then do whatever you need to, let your engineers know, or go and do them yourself if it's something you're allowed to. Attached to the email will be a PDF of the DFR. Now, this you don't really need to look at it, but can be useful to know, and the admins will do what they need to do with it, whether it's printed out or store it in the cloud. This will be already uploaded to the cloud folders, and you'll be able to access it anytime you like. And then the FOR over here, you can open this up, and if you need to fill out an actual FOR book, it's very simple. It's already completely filled out, and you just copy it down. So even things like task codes, if they're in there, so Buckadine and Fleur, you'll get the task codes will be populated correctly. Tells you fuel and your total fuels, hours, minutes, everything like that. You just got to copy this down word for word and get it signed off. So that's what it looks like once you've closed it. And if you then go back to the DFR, you'll now see that it will have updated, and it will actually have put tomorrow's DFR in there, ready to go. So you can see fuel start is 250 litres, which is what we ended with from today, and the date down the bottom has been updated to show you it's now for the next day. One thing is worth mentioning: if you are out of service and you can't make a new DFR by closing it online, you can still create a new one to use for the next day, or say there's one in there that hasn't been closed for the previous day, it won't have made the next one. Click on these down the bottom left hand side, these lines, and you'll see one that's called sheet to duplicate. If you click on that and then click on the down arrow over here, you can see that you get an option to duplicate. Click on that. It will say copy of sheet to duplicate. Click on the down arrow, go again, rename, and you can rename it the date. So say it was for tomorrow. The date format has to be in the correct format, which is 2-digit date, 2-digit month, and 4-digit year. And once you've done that, then you've just got your normal DFR that you can fill out as per the last one. So hope you enjoy using it, and if you've got any questions, please ask your admins for the system, or get in contact with me, and I'll give you a hand. Thanks.